actor who I've enjoyed his work, Something About Mary and Deadwood. Also now in the theaters near you this Friday, playing Frank in the movie Wild. W. Earl Brown, good to see you, bud. How are you?
I'm great.
So, before we get to your Bears fandom, I want to talk with you about some of the movies that you've been in previously to Wild. And a lot of fans clearly would know you from Something About Mary, where you played Warren, Cameron Diaz's brother, with the Walkman headsets. And we had the Farrelly brothers in studio a few weeks ago and hooked them up with Favre.
Oh, I was watching it. I saw it.
Oh, you saw that?
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
And so, do you have your own memories of Brett from that set?
Absolutely. With Pete talking about playing catch with Brett, we were, first of all, Brett and I just hit it off because we're both like country boys from farming land who, you know, lived our dream. Anyway, I'm sitting there on the edge of a prop truck and I'm playing my guitar, and I hear something go. I thought, what's that sound?
Yeah.
I keep playing. Again, something cutting the air, and I can't figure out what the hell it is.
Yeah.
Then I realize it's Brett's ball. Sounds like a fastball. I mean, I hear a baseball cutting the air.
You heard a whiz.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's okay.
That's right. We're on.
Yeah, you're all good. Yeah, go for it.
So that's when I realized that it's Brett's football cut in the air like that. Then I thought, well, I want to see if I can catch one of those.
Uh-oh.
I didn't attempt it.
You didn't?
The opportunity did not present itself. And then I thought, you know what? I would really prefer to keep my fingers that I can still play guitar. So
yeah. So
I didn't do it.
And he was, and interestingly enough, because I didn't know prior to talking to Pete and Bobby Farrelly on that program that Brett was third on their depth chart.
Yeah.
Did you know that Bledsoe was their first choice?
Because Bledsoe, well, the Pats played Miami while we were shooting. We all went to the game. And I knew that they lived and breathed the Pats. And I knew that they'd reached out to him.
Yeah, and he couldn't do it for
little PR nightmare, and he was afraid that it might increase it.
That's right. W. Earl Brown here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Chicago Bears are your team because you share something that Doc Rivers said earlier on the program, correct?
Brian's song, 1972.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because where are you from originally?
I grew up in Kentucky. And see, we didn't have a pro football team in Kentucky.
Right.
And that's why the Wildcats, Kentucky Wildcats, have such a rabid fan base because there's nothing else to dilute sports fan base. And really, when I discovered, well, first of all, Joe Namath was, Joe was the pop cultural icon.
Sure.
And Joe and Johnny U were like my first football heroes. My first books I ever bought on my own as a kid to read that weren't assigned in school were Johnny Unitas and Joe Namath. Anyway, when I really started watching the sport was the year 72 when the Dolphins were so great, but then Brian's song came on the air. And it was that just tugged at my heartstrings. And that was like, that's my team.
Now you got to root for the Bears because you saw Brian's song. No kidding.
And then I ended up living in Chicago. I moved there right after the Super Bowl season in the 80s.
So when they're doing the Super Bowl shuffling and all sorts of business, you moved into Chicago.
Yeah.
So you've seen firsthand, a lot of people have said, and I should have asked this of Doc, but he would probably agree, no matter how great Jordan played for the Bulls and how great that Bulls run is, it's still at very heart a football town, Chicago.
Yes, because they're one of the original cities, those Great Lakes, you know. That was the great thing. We tread the boards together. We both did draft day.
Yes, we did.
And so I got to go visit Canton while I was there.
In Ohio, because they truly did shoot it in Ohio.
Yeah, we shot
Yeah, you
Cleveland.
played the security chief of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And with Costner. And by the way, the lines that you were saying and the stories that you were telling in the movie, that's what security guys do. That was real stuff right there.
Yeah. And it was exciting for me to be, because growing up such the rabid fan of the sport.
Right.
And we didn't have football until I was in high school.
Right.
So by the time I played my senior year, I didn't know how to play because I'd playing against guys that had started when they were 10 years old. But that was my sport. That was my favorite sport. So to be in the locker room, to actually be in the Browns facility, to see the guys come in, work out.
Yeah.
It was pretty thrilling for me.
That's cool. W. Earl Brown here on the Rich Eisen Show, the movie Wild in theaters on December 5th. You played Dan Doherty, Al Swearingen's right-hand man on Deadwood for all those years. Deadwood was like, it was as if it was written in iambic pentameter.
It was.
It was like the Black Hills of South Dakota meets Shakespeare in my mind. And my wife and I would watch these shows nonstop, and then we'd watch it again and pick up stuff that we didn't see the first time, and then even a third time we would be doing that. What was it like for you to be performing with Ian McShane and for David Milch in this classic from HBO.
We all knew at the time that we had something unique that no one had seen before. And it was an exhilarating process. You couldn't wait to get there of a morning. And that's not always the case in shows. You couldn't wait to get there because you didn't know what was going to happen. You wanted to be there. You wanted to be a part of it, whether you were in scenes or not. And I lucked out. I worked on the writing staff also. So it was...
You did?
Seasons 2 and 3, yeah. And...
What was that like? I mean...
Well, in the pilot, I improvised a line, which is a huge no-no because David does write in meter. It just came out. And Milch walks to me in the pilot and he goes, "What did you say?" Or no, first thing he goes, "I guess I'm going to have to call WGA, get an adjudication over who wrote this thing, me or you." and I'm thinking, uh-oh, I'm going to get fired. And he goes, "What did you say?" And I'm running where payable Mr. Swearingen, and I'm supposed to say, "You'll find it." And I went, "You'll find it. Everybody does." And so I remembered the line, and David...
So you just said everybody does?
I just added everybody does, which is 3 more syllables, which kind of messes with the meter. Well, David, he brought script supervisor over, and he goes, "Write this down. Tell her what you said. Never quote me on it because I'll deny it. But that's a great turn of phrase. That works." So that led to season 2. I got an invitation to come to the writers' trailer.
Just by saying everybody does in the pilot?
Well, he had asked, midway through the season, he asked if I'd ever written anything, and I gave him a short story. And then he asked if I'd ever written a script, and I had just gotten the rights. I wrote a movie called Bloodworth that was released by Sony.
Sure.
And I'd just done the first adaptation version of that. So he read the script. So those things just kind of led to season 2. But I was the guy on the bench, you know. Everybody else was higher in the batting order than me and the writing staff because they had so much more experience than me.
Well, plus you were getting dirty in the thoroughfare. Earl.
Yeah, well, I would have to go over and do Doherty. But I'm like you. I mean, I was there when those things were written. And I can still watch that show and still pick up things that I'd not noticed before.
And there are some words that are not safe for work. And
Depends on what your work is.
Oh my gosh, and it is truly remarkable. It's one of the great. It was so depressing to me and my wife that show went away.
You think it was depressing to you?
Well, listen, and you are continuing the HBO dramatic oeuvre, W. Earl Brown. You're in True Detective too. Is that correct? Am I allowed to say that? Or am I
well,
allowed
I
to say
guess
that?
we can say that I am in it.
You're in it.
Yeah, they're
That's it?
super, super, super secretive about the show. I did 2 things coming down the pike that I think are going to be extraordinary, aside from Wild, which is opening, this week.
This Friday.
I did American Crime for ABC, which is John Ridley, the guy that wrote 12 Years a Slave. I want to talk about pressure. We started on that show the day after he won the Oscar. So his show, American Crime, comes on in March, and then True Detective will be coming on after that.
And then, but it's like Fight Club. We can't talk about it.
I know. I'm afraid to say anything.
Okay,
other
I don't
than,
want to say any more
I'm
because it's too precious. And Wild, you have the floor before I let you go about this film. Tell people why they should go see it on Friday.
It's an incredibly. It is an action adventure. So many people think, well, it's a chick flick. It's all women. It is on one level, but the main story is an action adventure. It's what she goes through. The story behind it is Cheryl Strayed. She lost her mother. She had a traumatic upbringing, and she went off the rails. And she decided, with no experience and no training whatsoever, because she was at her bottom as far as drug use and promiscuity, she decides she's going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And she does. And she bit off way more than she thought she could chew. So it's her adventure, you know.
Played by Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, Reese plays the role.
And you have you have a role in this film, which I look forward to seeing on Friday after your Bears have a Thursday night game against the Cowboys. I can't say I'm rooting for one team or another. I have to physically be there.
Well, I can say.
Okay. Well, good luck to you on the Bears front, man.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Before he goes, can I get the Deadwood hat from off the side of the set, please? I think it's on the head of my bust right now. Thank you so much. Hand it over to me. He's going to sign this thing, and we'll put that up on the set. W. Earl Brown going to sign a Deadwood hat. Fantastic.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.